For 16 years, Mike McGrath led Montana's judicial branch as Supreme Court Chief Justice. At the start of 2025, he passed the torch to his successor, but not before sitting down with Montana PBS's Stan Parker for a reflection on his long legal career and the current tensions between the court and the other branches of government.
Raise your right hand. You got it? Repeat after me. I, Corey Swanson.
I, Corey Swanson.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To support.
It was Mike McGrath's final act after 16 years as Montana Supreme Court Chief Justice, swearing in his successor.
So help me God. Chief, congratulations. Normally we don't wear pants under these things. We're wearing them today.
And as Montana's new top judge, Corey Swanson, donned his robes and addressed his well-wishers, McGrath stepped back and into retirement, ending 2 terms as head of the judicial branch and a long career in government.
I've been amazingly lucky. I've been an elected official for 42 years, and a lot of that is luck and good fortune.
McGrath's career also included 8 years as Montana Attorney General and a long stint as county attorney for Lewis and Clark County. The latter part of his tenure was defined publicly by a growing tension between the courts and Republican policymakers.
So most people in this room probably should already know this, but our judiciary is rogue.
Do you think that this tension is going to escalate?
No, I think the court's in good hands. I think the judicial branch is quite stable. We have 60+ trial court judges and appellate judges that work hard, do a good job, continue to decide cases based on the law and the facts of those cases.
This undramatic view of legal work, even as tensions rise, feels more akin to the rolling up of sleeves in a blue-collar career. Perhaps an attitude that rubbed off on him growing up in Montana's working-class capital, Butte.
It was a different era. Was very fortunate. I had the opportunity to work in the mines, worked underground when I was going to college in the summers and at Christmas time, and that was a great experience. Learned a lot about dealing with people, learned a lot about water issues. I worked on the pump crew.
Do you think that growing up in Butte, where kind of the visible reminders of the Copper King legacy are so close and at hand, influenced the way you think about the present challenges Montana faces?
Absolutely.
That perspective is a thread that runs through McGrath's career, with his written opinions steeped in history and colored by a suspicion of corporate influence. Also a perennial watchdog for the environment. As Attorney General, he played a central role in dismantling a giant monument of the Copper King legacy, the Milltown Dam.
Milltown Dam removal is just a small part of litigation against primarily the Anaconda Company at the time for pollution that it caused in the Clark Fork River all the way from Butte, certainly to Missoula where the dam was, but then beyond.
Since 1908, the Clark Fork River has been running over, under, and sometimes through the Milltown Dam. Built to produce electricity, the dam also has another function, collecting sediment, toxic sediment.
So that is a Superfund site, and it's a massive undertaking in terms of the restoration, but also the cleanup or remediation, if you will, itself.
Here's McGrath in 2008, talking about a settlement with the Anaconda Company's successors.
Before everything is done, ARCO BP will spend $1 billion in Montana, $1 billion in Montana in terms of cleanup efforts.
Today, the Blackfoot and Clark Fork rivers run free and wild at a Superfund site turned state park.
A lot of groups had strong interests, and so getting all of those people on the same page took years of negotiation, years of discussion, but at the end, everybody concluded this was the way to go.
McGrath was also unafraid to think outside the box on crime. As Attorney General, he boosted the Montana Meth Project, an awareness campaign with memorable ads and public art projects that still dot Montana roadways decades later. Once sworn in as Chief Justice in 2009, he pushed for expanding specialized drug courts.
virtually every criminal case you see involves drugs and alcohol. So things that we can do to reduce recidivism rates by turning those people's lives around is important, and it's effective.
It sounds like there's so much more to the job than deciding what should happen to someone, but it's also about envisioning and administering a system that can accomplish the prescriptions that you prescribe for people.
Yeah, it's a great job. I'll miss that.
McGrath's penchant for problem solving led him to another early priority, making sure people with issues before the Supreme Court didn't have to wait so long to get their issues resolved. Justice delayed is justice denied, he said during the campaign. And for most of his tenure, more than 90% of judges and lawyers said they were pleased with the court's time to decision, a dramatic difference from the 30% satisfied before he took office.
We handle cases much differently than they did before, and we issue more opinions that we refer to as memo opinions. It answers the question before us, it solves the litigant's problem, but it doesn't have any precedential value. It doesn't plow any new ground. It doesn't interpret a statute in a different way. And some justices write faster than others, frankly, and so they tend to write more opinions.
But court mechanics don't make headlines. Opinions do. And McGrath has penned some big ones. After the 2010 Citizens United decision unleashed corporate spending in the public square, a Montana law limiting corporate campaign money seemed poised to fall. But in a high-profile case known as Western Tradition Partnership, McGrath wrote that he believed the Montana law could still exist in a post-Citizens United world. That viewpoint ended up roundly rebuked by the U.S. Supreme Court, which struck down the Montana law.
There were a lot of predictions in that opinion about how the influence of money could impact politics in Montana. You write, unlimited corporate money would irrevocably change the dynamic of local Montana political office races. What thoughts come to mind reflecting on these predictions 13 years later?
No, it's certainly come to pass. You look at this past election cycle and the U.S. Senate race, the kind of money that was spent and who spent the money and who knows who spent the money on both sides was extraordinary. And that's a dramatic change from the way politics used to be done.
The judicial races, too, have gotten caught up in that.
Right.
This year at my house, I got a lot of flyers from out-of-state groups, and these issue ads really make it sound like the bulk of the work of a Supreme Court justice is how they feel about abortion or public lands. And it seems like it misses the thing, a lot of what you guys do every day, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. In the court system across Montana, we get several 100,000 cases if you count traffic and all those kind of cases. At the Supreme Court, we get 400 or 500 cases. Some, counting writs, we're up to 700 cases. Only a handful of those cases involve these sort of hot button issues, if you will. The rest of it is trying to apply the existing law to the facts of a particular case and resolve a dispute.
The money and polarizing rhetoric in judicial races has also fed the growing tension between the court and top Republicans.
The ACLU out of New York City dumped more than $1 million into those races.
Who say politicized campaigns go hand in hand with politicized outcomes.
And our courts, well, they've sided with the far left.
Accusing the court of overreach when striking down laws on election rules.
Yes, those are all common sense election integrity bills.
Gender-affirming care for minors.
These are all common sense laws designed to protect Montana children.
And climate, to name a few. By McGrath's count, the court struck down 13 laws from 2020 to mid-2024, and only 3 during the 4 years before that.
Which is quite a significant increase, 3 to 13 in a short period of time. So what's the difference there? The court is the same. This has been the same Supreme Court. We've had no changes since 2016. So in my view, what has changed is one party has obtained a more dominant position, if you will, a super majority, and that has changed the balance of power, if you will, or it's certainly changed the tensions.
When the McGrath court sided with youth climate activists in the now famed climate case, Held v. Montana in December 2024, Republican legislators saw that as an escalation.
Montanans will continue to suffer decades of economic harm and social harm if we don't turn this activists and overreaching courts around.
As the Speaker of the House, I'm here to send a clear message to the judiciary. Buckle up.
Republican leaders went into the 2025 legislative session with a long wish list of reforms aimed at reining in the courts. McGrath says much of this conflict is simply part of the natural tensions between the branches, but cautions against going too far.
I think it's critical that each branch maintain its own freedoms and independence, but there is that built-in tension, which is a healthy thing, and it's designed to keep any branch from getting too powerful. It's designed to keep the government itself from becoming too powerful.
And now, all these big questions are left for a new Chief Justice to ponder.
So what do we do about the present, and what do we do about the future? I would personally like to break this cycle and get back to writing more.
What I'll miss in terms of the court is the intellectual stimulation, intellectual discussions that we have trying to resolve a problem. That's the part I'll miss the most.
For Impact, I'm Stan Parker.
Supreme Court justices are elected for 8-year terms and are staggered to ensure that only 2 seats are up for election at any given time. This is designed to insulate the High Court from political pressure and ensure continuity.